Happy Sunday, y'all. Good afternoon now. I almost said good morning again. If you didn't catch my test the other day, you'll notice we have a different camera angle. Yeah, I used to sit over, and I'm going to do this a lot here today. I used to sit over almost underneath that monitor hanging off the wall there. That's the monitor I use for the CNC router. And the distance between that monitor and the door, you can see the door handle and my light switch is right there. That distance is about 2 feet, and that just was not enough. The little typing stand that I was using with my laptop, it was roughly about 20 inches wide, and that just is not enough. So I built a fold down desk over here in this corner. I can still get to the electrical panel just fine. I just move my keyboard and mouse off of this. I can drop it down and get into the panel. I don't need to do anything. If I just need to reset a breaker, I just move. I got two monitors up here, and they both will pivot, out of the way. I can reach up in here and get to a breaker to reset a breaker if I need to, but I shouldn't need to reset a breaker. So anyway, that's life in this world. And the Gatton CNC is right behind me. So I think this is going to work out much better. I got a much larger surface area, and I'm on a desktop computer now. So about the only thing I think that I have to work on right now is I've got an itty bitty ring light that you can see reflected in my glasses, and it just doesn't put enough light here. I got a big dark space, and right directly in my face, and I keep smacking the microphone mount, but what can you say? And yes, Michael, I do need a bigger shop, but this is double what I used to have. So I'm a happy guy right now. Believe me. So let's do a little bit of cleanup here. Scott Malak wants to know how come in the replay the chat isn't available anymore. It should be available. That's a mistake on my part. When you set up a live stream like this, there is a checkbox in customization that to replay the chat, and I thought I had it set up to by default replay the chat. I may have unchecked that box in the last couple of videos, so I'll go back through and I'll fix that because you should be able to see the chat replay. So okay, thank you, Bob. I think he's moved around to the front yard now, but I'm not kidding you. 20 minutes till, all of a sudden he fires up this loud old, this lawnmower must be older than me because this puppy is loud. And I thought, oh, great, here we go. So, and this is going to be the first spring and summer that I've done this from out here. So I don't know what neighborhood noise is going to be like. The people right behind us, they have a swimming pool and about, just this side of 1 million kids. So it may be, I may be back in back in the house doing these if it gets too noisy out here, but we'll see. So, let's see. Today was the epic toolpathing video for all of the vectors for our pirate that we're going to do. And I know it was a long video. I apologize for how long that video was. I think final edit time was about 45 minutes. A little inside baseball, I recorded that video twice. Got halfway through the first edit and I made too many mistakes that I corrected and figured I could edit out, but it was just so choppy. I said, to heck with it. So yesterday morning, I re-recorded the entire video, got it edited, got it all posted and everything else. And no, take that back. Friday morning, I did all that. Yesterday, I spent closed captioning it. So Jamie Page from JP Woodwork did a super chat for a bag of Maltesers. He knows that that is my weakness. If you have never tried Maltesers, try them. You're missing out. Thank you very much, Jamie. I really, really appreciate it. If you're into wood turning, look up JP Woodwork here on the YouTubes. He does some killer stuff over there. I don't comment on all your videos, Jamie, but I do watch them, and you do get a thumbs up from me. So, but thank you very much for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Let me get over here. We had a couple of comments and a couple of questions on the video this morning. And these are straight from the YouTube chat. Jeff at JMJ Love Dance, and pardon me, this is not from the YouTube chat. This is from the YouTube comments. He called me on something that I have said several times, and you got a good eye. He says, let's see. I like the way you have everything organized. What are your tool parameters for 15-degree V-bit, especially the step over? Well, I was going to comment on that in the next video. I am going to comment on it in the next video, but let's go ahead and get over into Aspire, and I'll share my screen here, and we'll get into the there we are. We'll get into the tool database, and in the database, come on, there you are. Let's get down here. Is my 15, is this it? This is it. This is the 15-degree V-bit. And the parameters are, this is such a small bit with such a needle point. I don't have one right here. I grabbed every bit but that one. That point is very, very delicate. Now, I have the pass depth sit at a 1/16 of an inch. That's not very big at all. You know, let's see what that would be in millimeters. 0.0625 inches in millimeters. And that is 1.5 mil. So that's pretty small for a pass depth. And the final pass step over for doing very, or 10,000ths of an inch. And the clearance pass step over is 60,000ths of an inch, 24% of the diameter. So it's a very, very small bit. And if you look at 10,000ths of an inch, that's not very much at all. But it's such a needle point that you have to kind of baby that thing if you plan on keeping it for any length of time. So that is, those are the parameters, the cutting parameters that I'm using for this bit. Now, having said that, this is 100% changeable, and probably will be changed as I get more experienced with this bit. So just know that that's a good starting point. It's a conservative feed rate because I'm not all that experienced with the with this particular bit. So that's the name of that tune. Let's see here. Then another comment, he asked, will you do all the pours and then do a final surfacing? Yes. And in fact, let's go ahead and do that right now. Let me put on my gloves here. I can show you the piece of material that I'm going to be using, and I'll explain why I'm wearing gloves. I'm going to be using a piece of leopard wood. And for those of you who have never seen leopard wood, this is it. This is what the pirate is going to be carved in, probably this side here. Now, I bought this, went down to my local hardwood supplier. I'll probably carve it into that side. I went down to my local hardwood supplier, and I wanted to buy some lacewood to make a jewelry box for my granddaughter for Christmas. And I got to using this and discovered that it wasn't lacewood. I thought I was buying lacewood. It was marked as lacewood. It turns out it is leopard wood. And the way I can tell, and why I'm wearing gloves when I handle it, is because I have a reaction to leopard wood that I don't have with lacewood. So leopard wood is actually a little bit more expensive than lacewood, but I got a deal on it, but I got to working with it, and every time I handled it, you kind of scratch your forehead or you rub your cheek or scratch your arm or something like that. I got to noticing that just wherever I touched would start burning within a minute or two. I thought, what the heck is going on here? And I figured out that it was happening after I touched the wood. It didn't hurt my hands at all, but whenever I, rub myself or what have you, it would start burning where I had just touched. So I got on to good old Dr. Google and said, looked for skin reactions to lacewood. And the very first link I pulled up was lacewood versus leopard wood, and started talking about reactions to that. I've worked with lacewood before and I've never had a reaction to it. And I got to looking at it, and lacewood and leopard wood are almost indistinguishable, and they're very easy to confuse. Well, I abandoned that project because I'm not about to give my granddaughter something that could potentially make her have a skin reaction. So I had all this leopard wood. So the end all and be all of all of this is I decided that for this project, it's not something that's going to be handled. It's going to be something that sits on a wall or sits on a shelf or something like that. I'll go ahead and I'll carve it into this nice piece of leopard wood, then finish it as normal. I've talked to the manufacturer of the epoxy I'm going to be using, and I can finish it with satin polyurethane, and it'll be just fine. So that will also seal it against somebody having a reaction to it. So that's more than you ever wanted to know. But I figured this pirate would look excellent carved in that piece of leopard wood. So that's where that's going to go. And Scott Mach just asked here, and John asked in the comments, another person who I need to have around a lot more often, are asking about why I am running the clearance pass first when normally I run the V-bit pass first. And you both have a good eye, and I'll answer that right now. The answer is I'm not. That was a mistake. And I didn't catch that mistake until after the video was shot, edited, posted, and I was editing closed captions. And I said, wait a minute, I'm not doing that first. I do the V-bit pass first. I had already reshot the entire video. So it's like, I'm not doing that over again. No way. So I figured I would correct that in the next video. The short answer to the long question is I will not be running the clearance toolpath first. I'll be running the V-bit toolpath first. So, but good eye you guys got. And thanks for keeping me straight on that. So, yeah, the V-bit pass I almost always run first. I mean, there are a couple of exceptions, but especially this time I will be running the V-bit pass first so that it avoids any chip out, whether that be in epoxy or that is in the wood itself. So, okay, let's see. And feel free to add any questions you may have. Let's see. I'll Peleg wants to know what is hanging on the front of the CNC machine. That's my dust collector hose running down from the ceiling, and then it runs into a segment of a wand that goes down to the dust shoe, which is not on it right now. Well, the dust shoe is there, but the brush isn't. I don't know where the brush is. It should be over there. Oh, well. And then the black cord that you see hanging down there, that's the cord for the router. So that's what that is. Let's see here now. Terry McQueen wants to know, have you any interest in laser burning or cutting? Yes, very much so. It's just not in the budget right now. I did have a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now, I had a K40 laser, the little imported small engraving lasers, the 40-watt CO2 laser. And it was so freight damaged, I ended up having to return it. Even the manufacturer said, wow, yeah, you'd have never got this aligned or in focus. But I had it just long enough to realize that it's not big enough to do what I want to do with a laser. So I just haven't gotten into laser yet. So, and that's just simply because it's not in the budget right now. So, let's see. Oh, I see. Okay. Peleg was saying, actually, I meant the tools in the front, which when you moved, I was able to see they seem to be attached to a magnetic strip. Yes, again, extremely good eye. If I lean over this way, he's talking about that little tool rail right there, which is a magnetic strip. And right there on the end, I have the 2 wrenches for the collet for the router. Then I've got a screwdriver. That's a Phillips screwdriver there, and a couple of paint lid openers. I've got a couple of very small flat tip screwdrivers that I kind of use for ice pick type operations, kind of things. Just tools that I need, little hand tools that I need right there on the front of the machine. So if I need a Phillips screwdriver, I can just reach down, grab it, and bring it up and do whatever, and then just drop it back in place, and it hangs there on the magnet. But yeah, I just screwed it onto the front, and it works like a champ. So let's see here now. Okay, Jay. I don't know if it's Heumann or Human, but however you pronounce it, I'm sorry I mispronounced it the other way. In VCarve, can you have one project with 2 different thicknesses of material? Would this be sheets? Yes, and yes, it would. If you saw my series on the T-shelf that I just completed a couple of weeks back, I did exactly that. Most of the material was 1/2 inch thick, except for, well, there were a few, like the front rails were 1/4 of an inch thick. So you can set up different sheets with different pieces of material on them, and each piece of material can be a different size and a different thickness. And using sheets, that's one of the advantages of sheets that surprised me. I really didn't think I would be using sheets as much as I do. But now that I've gotten into them and I use them, it's one of those cases of how the heck did we get along without these? Because instead of having 3 or 4 different files, like just in that simple shelf, I had, I believe it was 5 sheets. Well, that would have been 5 separate V-Carve files that I now had in just one file. So it's a heck of a lot easier to keep things organized, and takes up a heck of a lot less space on the hard drive. Yeah, I know these days with cheap SSD drives, it's no big deal, but it just makes physically finding all the files for a project a heck of a lot easier because it's just one file to manage. So I will put a link to, I won't link the whole playlist, but I will link the T-shelf video that shows using sheets down in the description of this video. As soon as we're done live here. And I'm trying to remember, did I do a separate video on it or not? I don't think I did, but I did demonstrate using sheets on that T-shelf vector video. So, okay, let's see here now. Rick French says you should talk more about your dust collection, what it is and what you want to evolve to. I plan on it. I just got to get there. In fact, that may be the next video because, well, no, it can't be the next video because a lot of it is still on its way. I've still got, you can just see if I unclick that comment, you can see that box right there. That's the dust collector itself. I still haven't even taken it out of the box. I have a dust deputy on its way. It's in Illinois right now. I checked tracking this morning. So the dust deputy's getting here. Then I got to get all the ducting. So, I mean, eventually it's going to evolve, but I'm going to do a before and after kind of a thing. Right now, that's 2.5 inch. See, that's 2.5 inch hose coming out of a 1.25 inch nozzle, then into an adapter 2.5 inch hose that runs up to the ceiling. And you can see behind me there, that gray piece of pipe coming down the back wall. I plugged my shop vac in right there and turn it on, and it runs into a cyclone separator kind of a thing. It's called a dust stopper down at, they sell them at Home Depot. And it works. It works great. The problem is with all the restrictions, I just don't get enough airflow, and it can't keep up with the CNC router. Keeps up with the table saw and all my sanders just fine. It just won't keep up with the CNC router. There's not enough airflow. So that's why I'm going to the 4-inch, 2 horsepower. That's the Harbor Freight unit right there. The big, what do they call it? The 70-gallon, 2 horsepower, something like that. Maybe it's 70 liter. I don't know. But, and then eventually it is going to be outside when I get the lean-to shed built on the back of the, this shop shed this year. It's going to be, so the dust collector won't be physically in here. So I'm not going to be worrying about filtration or any of that other good stuff. So it'll just be out in another building, I'll use I'll be using the 5 micron bag that comes with it. So, okay, let's see here. Let's see. Okay, RB Woodwork, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you had asked the question, is that a Harbor Freight box on the floor? Yes, it is. Okay. Let's see, going back down here through this, James Pell wants to know, what pigments are you going to use with the epoxy? What is the mix time for each color? Um, the open time for the epoxy that I'm going to be using is, I want to say it's 2 hours, but I'm not, don't quote me on that just yet. It's still on the way. I won't get it until Monday. On that note, the next video may or may not be the pour, the carving and pour, because as you saw in the video earlier today, it's going to take me a week to get the pours done and get it surfaced. This is assuming everything goes well, okay? Because there's still a lot of variables and a lot of factors that could scrap the whole project. Having said that, there are 15 colors in the pigments, and it's kind of a hodgepodge of 2 or 3 different brands. I don't have them out here. They're still in the house on my desk. The dry pigments are Black Diamond's brand. Some of the liquid pigments are, oh my gosh, Specialty Plastics, I want to say. There's 3 or 4 different brands. All of that will be in the video when I actually pour. So, and the epoxy has to sit and cure for 24 hours before I can carve the next color. So, that's why I combined so many tool paths, because, well, as I said in the video, I didn't want to like carve his brown shirt and then carve all the peach, and while it was still liquid, accidentally spill some, peach into the brown or brown into the peach or something like that. So areas that are close together are going to be done on separate days. So I can come in and I can pour like the green of his eye and pour the gold on the hilt of his sword on the same day, because they're, relatively speaking, quite a ways away from one another. And the chances of me dribbling or spilling into that other color are, not bad. But it would be very, very easy to mess up something. And I got to tell you, this is an expensive proposition. You don't realize how expensive this kind of thing is. But before shipping, just the epoxy and the pigments is $200. So this pirate, with not counting the wood, not counting shipping, not counting the tools I have coming, just the epoxy and pigments is $200. So it's not something to be taken lightly. Let's see, Rick French wants to know, no fear in mixing epoxy brands and colors. No. What you have to do, now, let me back up. There could be a conflict. What you have to do is do a little bit research to see, is there going to be a reaction? Epoxy is, for the most part, epoxy is epoxy. For the most part. It's when you get into different resins that you can have different reactions. Then also, when you're researching a pigment, shoot those people an email and say, is it compatible with this brand of epoxy? They'll get right back to you. And that's what I did. So, you know, you just have to do do a little bit of due diligence and do a little bit of research, because some pigments are alcohol based, some of them are water based, and they will react to the resin that you're using. We tend to use epoxy as a catch-all term for any kind of resin, and that's just not the case. There's polyester resins out there. There are nitrocellulose-based resins. There are all kinds of different resins. So resin is the catch-all term for it. Epoxy is not, but epoxy is a subcategory. So, and I didn't realize that. Let's see. Richard Canton wants to know, are you going to test Carve on cheap wood? You bet. You bet I am. Let's see here. I've got some other comments over here I need to get to real quick. Yes, Bob Heltebridal echoed. I had a project for an F-18 simulator cockpit. The files were DXF files, and I put it on 8 sheets, some 1/2 inch, some 3/4 inch MDF. Yes, sheets work, and they work very well. Very well. So, excuse me. See, John Lackey says, I have built a 2-foot by 4-foot CNC router machine from scratch. Looking at building a 4x8. How big of a cutting surface do you have? This one here, it looks deceiving. The cutting area of my Gatton CNC is 50 inches in X and 34 inches in Y. It's the whole tabletop is 56 wide by 48 deep. But you have that area under the CNC router and behind and under the gantry that you can't cut. So that's why, and on my machine, it happens to be about 14 inches, 14 and some change. So if you're going to build a 4x8 machine, you need to account for the width of the actual machine, because, you know, you have your gantry sides, and then you have your linear rails and motor mounts and all that other good stuff. And then the depth of machine, you have all that area behind the center point of the router bit backwards to the rear of the gantry that you can't use. It's just lost space. So, let's see here. Let me get back down into some of the more current comments. Michael Mazalik is asking me, will you do a cost breakdown for this project when complete, including design and CNC machining time charges? I could, if there's an interest in that. The only reason I mentioned the cost of the materials so far is because it surprised me. You know, the tints, for example, $5-6 times 15, you know, it adds up quick. And then the resin itself, you can easily, depending upon what size bottles you get, you could easily spend $200 just on epoxy. So, and then you've got to factor in shipping, because, you know, some places do offer free shipping, but epoxy is, being a liquid, they have to take special precautions to make sure you don't get empty jugs when it arrives on your door. So there's a little bit of a cost involved in getting this stuff. So hey, yeah, the Extreme Woodworker says, no kidding on costs. I quoted an epoxy project at $1,500 2 weeks ago, and the price shocked the client, who declined the job. Yeah, And now you see why you have people like Blacktail Studio here on YouTube. They do killer work. Don't get me wrong. But that's why they make projects, they make a conference table that's $10,000. Well, their cost is probably 3. So, you know, it's okay. Let's see here. IL Peleg says +1 for the request for the price breakdown went down. Okay, I can do that. I can do that. And Brooks Martin says +2. Okay. Let's see. Ray Dixon wants to know, is shrinkage an issue with epoxies when you fill spots you carved out? I have not heard of a shrinkage issue with epoxy. I have heard of that with polyester resins, but I'm not using a polyester resin. So, and full disclosure, this will be my first epoxy inlay. I have worked with epoxy in the past, but I didn't do an inlay like this. I cut out a coffee sign, which I don't have a picture of on this computer, or I'd show you. I cut out a coffee sign for my youngest daughter, and the hollowed out area, I left text and a picture standing proud and just pocketed out the background. And I filled that with epoxy. And there was absolutely no shrinkage on that at all. And that turned out really nice. I didn't think to carry it forward and then engrave, V-carve the text and the picture into that black epoxy and pour different colors. I just didn't think of it. So I have done it before, and shrinkage has not been a problem at all. And that was carved in MDF. So there was no expansion or contraction or anything like that. So let's see here. Michael Mazalik wants to know, any potential off-gassing from wood through the epoxy? That's why I'm going to pour clear first, is to, number one, fill all those fibers so it doesn't absorb pigment, and to seal that to prevent any off-gassing into or out of the wood. Now, having spoken to Rob Sandstrom of Generations Custom Creations and Shane Peters, both of which who have done a lot of these projects, especially Shane. He's done a ton of these things. They have both warned me that the heat that builds up as the epoxy cures, that is a concern, because it can cause the wood to warp or twist. So they have both told me expect that. And in fact, Rob left a comment on the video this morning suggesting that I increase my cutting depths because of that, especially on the first few pours where I'm pouring large areas. They've suggested that I increase those depths because I may have to come back and surface it flat again after those first couple. So I will do that. And in fact, I'll make a note of that in the next video. So that means, yes, I get to go back and adjust those cut depths again. Now, let me ask this about that. Did I confuse everybody with the cut depths? I know I said it about 15 times in the video, and even I got tired of hearing it. But adjusting all those depths to cut deeper was done just so you could see it in the preview. So hopefully that didn't confuse everybody. And when I went back and adjusted all of my cut depths, that's so it would be the actual cut depths, which I now get to go back and redo. So, yeah, let's see here. The Extreme Woodworker says liquid resin dyes bleed badly, so make sure you use a sealer. Yeah, that's why I'm going to I'm going to cut out the entire area that's going to be inlaid, and I'm going to pour clear. And then all of the rest of the inlays will be carved shallower so it doesn't go through that clear. So yeah, I've been warned about that, and I've done enough painting of V-carve projects to know that if you don't seal that, I mean, because think about it. I mean, the minute a bit goes into a piece of wood, you have just created end grain. So, and as you know, end grain is going to absorb any kind of pigment like a sponge. So let's see here. Let's see. Russell Faraday says per project, it's probably not a lot, but I've spent about 50 pounds on masking tape and CA glue this year. Not sure I want to know the detailed cost of my personal projects. Yeah, well, you know, something that I've discovered, and I don't know about the laws in the UK, but here in the States, that's all deductible. If you're running a business or if you're, you know, putting it out on YouTube, it's deductible. Those are my two favorite words. It's deductible. So I can write it off my taxes. So, excuse me. I'm doing the springtime sinus thing. So I get a cough and a sneeze every once in a while. Hopefully I won't have a sneezing fit. Of course, now that I've mentioned it, I will. Okay, LB Sharp wants to know, could you explain the Mach 3 Z soft limit warning and how to avoid it? I can't do it on this computer, LB, and that's only because I don't have Mach 3 on this computer. I'm on a desktop computer now, but this is not a high-end desktop. And running, I've got 3 browser windows open right now, and I've got Aspire running over here for screen sharing. If I did have Mach 3 on this computer and tried to fire it up, it would probably overtax the system. Basically, a soft limit Z alarm, let's see here. Number one, right off the top, I don't use soft limits. So I hesitate to tell you to go ahead and shut off soft limits, but I don't use soft limits because I kept getting false warnings like that. Now, let's see. Z soft limit warning. It just simply means that you're getting very, very close to the end of your software limit. You might try increasing your soft limit or just turning them off. I don't use soft limits. I find them to cause more problems than they fix. And the reason I don't use soft limits is because, like I said, I've got that cutting area of 50 by 34. If I put a piece of material that's 24 by 24 on the machine, I'm not going to get anywhere near the outer boundaries of my hard limit switches or anything else. So rather than keep having all of those false triggers, which will stop a toolpath in midstream, I just shut off the soft limits and I don't use them. So if I had Mach 3, I could show you a little bit better what we're talking about. But what can I say? Okay. And I know that didn't really answer your question, but I'm not really in a position to get too technical into Mach 3 right now. But I will look into that and see if maybe I'll do a video on it. I'm not sure. See, IL Peleg says, cut depth was not confusion, but it was a bit frustrating because it means that your preview is not an actual preview. At first, I thought it might be better to just disable the first cut toolpath. You could do that. And in fact, what I did when I drew it up is I would run one toolpath, preview it, and then reset the preview, do the next toolpath, preview that. And I just previewed everything separately. But for purposes of making the video, so you could actually see what was going on, I had to keep adjusting so it cut a little bit deeper each time. Then explain to you why I was doing it that way, then go back and make all those changes. So it was either that or do them one at a time, which wouldn't give you a full preview of the whole project. So it was a trade-off mainly for purposes of the video. So, but you continue, but it's also only half a solution. Maybe Vectric should add a pour epoxy of some color toolpath. It would have to assume, I don't know, when we go to the user group meeting down in San Diego, I will talk to them about it and see if there's something that they could do. But you know, there's when you cut out an area and then refill it, maybe they can, you know, put in some sort of an option to let you refill or even just display that. I am, and I'm not the only one, I am asking them for a way to calculate volume of a vector and select more than one vector. And it would just be a simple modification of the measure tool that they already have. It would be just the ability to select more than one vector and not only calculate the area, but calculate the volume after you enter a given measurement. Say I'm going to carve 0.125 deep. I could enter that and it would give me the volume of that vector. So let's see now here. Suicidal at All Times, world's best YouTube channel name. Have you had or found that Aspire creates double segments lines stacked on some projects, not just imported, but singular lines that double stack at some point in the editing? No, I've not had it do it by itself. Anytime I've ever had any duplicate vectors, it's been because I made a mistake and duplicated it. I've never had it do that. You might want to shoot Vectric support a message because there may be an issue. I mean, it may be something running in the background while you're running it, or it may be some other program that you have that's messing with it in the background. But I've never had that issue, no. Let's see. Ray Dixon wants to know, have you ever cut bamboo? No. And if so, did you use any special end mills because the wood is so hard? No, I've never cut bamboo. I know several people who've had, and they've all made that exact same statement, that it is very hard and it's very stringy and very brittle. I do plan on grabbing a couple of El Cheapo bamboo cutting boards and trying them just because I've never cut it. And that's one of the things that I want to do moving forward is I want to get into doing some of these more unusual, let's say, material, excuse me, boy, some of these more unusual materials like foam, acrylic. I actually want to make micarta and CNC that. I want to make some out of paper and I want to make some out of resin. Or paper. I want to make some out of fabric. I want to make a whole bunch of different things. And then just cut it out. But I've got to get through these projects. Then I got to start focusing on the user group meeting. And I've got a big change coming up out here that I can't talk about just yet. That's going to be an adventure in and of itself. So it's just getting the time. David Pingle wants to know, did you do a presentation on zeroing from the table that you threatened several weeks ago? No. Not yet. That's going to dovetail in with the surfacing that I'm going to do in the next video in this series. And basically put, you know what? I will link Peter Passuelo's video because I'm going to mention it. Peter, and I'm going to use that as a reference as well. Peter Passuelo did a video on measuring from the table, setting Z0 from the table in order to cut to a specific thickness. And I will make a note to post a link to Peter's video down in the description of this video as soon as we're done. It's a very good video, and it takes a couple of seconds to wrap your head around it, what he's talking about. But when you do, it just kind of that light bulb moment. Aha, got it. So let's see. Tungsten is greater than any woods. Will dull faster, but yeah, that's true. Okay, and Steve Civil says, I have carved in cheap bamboo cutting boards with white side 90 and 60 degree V-bits with no issues. Okay, great. Let's see. Rick French says it's easy to accidentally create an overlapping vector when designing. I've made that mistake several times. Yes, and as a matter of fact, in the Pirate, where I have two of the pieces of the mustache, I had a couple of overlaps there that I fixed off camera so it wouldn't throw up that vector validator warning when I calculated that toolpath. So that is easy to do. Let's see. Scott Mallock says Rob from Generations has a volume calculator gadget. Yes, he does. And I'm going to be installing that. My point is, we're talking to Vectric about including that in the software so it's available to anybody, you know. So if they can, and all it is a modification to something that already exists. If they can do that, hey, I'm happy. Let's see. Russell Faraday says, I like soft limit warnings. I get occasionally when I hit cycle start and would have done damage if I had ignored it. Usually it is a short bit and my Z-rail is not long enough to reach the bed. Okay. Yeah, I don't have that issue on my machine. And I find, I just found soft limits to cause more problems than they solved in my case. That's just my opinion. And that's why I'm hesitant to tell LB just to deactivate them, because we use them for a reason and there is a valid reason for them. It's just, I have never come across that. I've never gotten close to what would be a soft limit. Brooks Martin says Vectric has a model volume calculator which requires you to subtract the model's volume from an uncut stock, and we'll need to do that for each pocket. All other pockets not displayed. Yes, but that is 3D model. V-carving is not 3D model. We're talking about a volume calculator. In fact, let me go ahead and share screen here and show you where we're talking about. Myself and a few other people have asked for this. Okay, here we go. We're talking about over here in the measure tool. You click measure. When you get down here into span and contour properties, there is a area here down in this area. Let me click on the inside of his hat. Come on. Did it select it? Yeah, there we go. It selected the vector of his hat, and it's telling me that the area is 4.9 square inches, 4.97 square inches. The perimeter is 12.353 inches. And it has 57 spans. All they would need to do is give me a blank right here where I could enter a proposed depth that would give me the volume. That's all we're asking for. And the ability to select more than one vector. Because, for instance, I want to figure out how much peach I'm going to use. I'd like to be able to select this vector here for his neck, this vector here for his arm, and then this vector up here for his face. I can't do that. I can only select one vector at a time. So we're just asking them to modify this area down here to allow you to enter a proposed depth that will give you a volume of that vector. So that's all we're asking for. And, you know, it's actually been pretty well received. Once they figured out what we were talking about, they went like, oh, okay, yeah, well, you know, maybe that is possible. That's, you know, that kind of thing. So, all right, let me, we've hit the top of the hour. Let me go back up here and see, did I miss any questions? I think, are you talking to me? What size is that? 3x4. It's a 4x4 plus. But, you know, that's not the cutting area, that's the size. So, let's see. Let's see here. Brooks says, get it here. Volume of a pocket, create component from the toolpath preview, then height component, then control alt shift V. Yeah, then you've got to create components and this, that, and the other. And did you see how many vectors are in there? You know, I've got to create all of these 3D components when all we're asking them to do is add a blank that we can enter a depth and it will automatically tell us. Yeah, now there's ways you can go and work in a squirrel cage and figure it all out. But, you know, if they can modify that one little thing in that area, well, two little things, let you choose more than one vector. But yeah, I can model a bunch of components. Yeah, sure, but it works. But so does Rob Sandstrom's volume calculator, you know. And in fact, it has a built-in factor. If, for instance, the epoxy you're going to be using is normally mixed 1-to-1 ratio by volume, but you're using weight, there's a little bit different ratio. For instance, the epoxy I'm going to be using is 1-to-1 by volume, but 1 to 0.85 if you're doing by weight. So that will help take that in. So, and Michael also brings up another good point. You can't do that if you're using VCarve because you can't create a component. So that would be an Aspire only hack. Yes, you could create a component out of that with the thickness of what you're talking about and get volumes that way. You're right, but only in Aspire. You wouldn't be able to do that with VCarve. So, but keep things like that coming because that is a workaround, you know. Okay, yeah, we're at the top of the. I almost got off on another tangent, and I don't want to do that. You don't want to get me going there. Okay, so let's see. The next video, I'm going to have to. I'm not going to commit and say it'll be the carving of the pirate into this piece of leopard wood. Because I just don't know that. It's like I said, things are still on their way. And I haven't received, I've got all the pigments, but I haven't got the epoxy yet. And, you know, we'll just see when it happens. If not, the next video is going to be, I've been threatening for a couple of weeks here to make it. I need to just go ahead and do it. It will probably be my CNC process for absolute beginners video that I should have made several years back as a companion video to an article I wrote for my website. So all you folks who already have and are using and are pretty good with the CNC, you can just ignore it because this is going to be a video for beginners. I'm going to go through the 5-step CNC process, with some screen capture demos of showing software. And it's going to be a lot of talking head stuff out here in the shop with some behind the scenes video and what have you. Also, another behind the scenes thing here. I started talking about channel memberships last week. I'm going to have to postpone until the 1st of June is when I will activate the channel memberships. All of my stuff has been approved by YouTube, but I will not be able to get everything up and posted fast enough to make the end of the month. So channel memberships will start on the 1st of June. There will be 2 different levels of membership. And all the posts will be done on my community tab. Just go to my YouTube account, my YouTube page, click on community, and you'll see all those posts. So Ray Dixon wants to know, do you have separate videos for Aspire? Not per se, because I use Aspire as my normal software. I no longer use VCarve and haven't since version 9, I want to say. But I do have separate videos for 3D work. The way to tell is all of my videos, the thumbnail, the text is red with a blue outline. But if it's a 3D video, the text is blue with a red outline. So if you see a video with blue text on the thumbnail, that's a 3D carving video or 3D modeling video. Some of the older ones were green, but I got a lot of complaints about that color. But all my normal videos are red with a blue outline. So, other than that, I think that's it. I will be posting another video on my other channel, which I have cleverly named Mark's Other Channel, talking about this desk. I got to get that edited. That'll come out sometime next week. Other than that, I think that's it. Channel memberships in June. Vectric user group meeting in San Diego in September. I will be there. I will be doing a presentation. I cannot talk about what I'm going to present yet. That's everything. I'll get these 2 links posted as soon as we get done here live. And I think that's it. So thank you very much for sticking with me. Thank you very much, Jamie Page, for the super chat. Thank you very much to all you folks who have hit those contribute buttons, donate buttons, and links down in the description box of all my videos. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Now, y'all take care. Have a good weekend. What's left of it. Go do something cool. Go make some sawdust. Get up. Get out of the house. Go on. Go on. Bye, y'all. Have a good one, and thank you.